Hey there, welcome back to Coffee with Kelley. So today's episode, kind of encompassing this week, is going to be about obesity. The reason I chose this is that this week marks National Obesity Week as well as National Obesity Care Week. And so I thought it would be fitting to kind of have an episode on this topic. It actually is one that I'm very passionate about, and it actually kind of drove me into the direction that I went into in terms of my career. I guess kind of giving you a little backstory about myself. I did my undergraduate studies at Wake Forest. I was actually pre-med, but found an affinity for health and exercise science there because we actually looked at the science of exercise, talked a little bit about nutrition, and I realized in a lot of the science classes it was just hardcore science, but not a lot of behavior type of classes that looked at like exercise and nutrition and how they influence the body. And so I ended up majoring in health and exercise science. Was still pre-med. And then once I kind of got out and was thinking about what my next steps were, I really was discouraged at the lack of emphasis on nutrition, physical activity, and lifestyle in a lot of these medical schools' curriculums. It was just straight science and pharmacology, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I took some time off between undergrad and graduate school. I came back to Columbus, and during the day, I worked at my dad's family practice in a small rural town in Johnstown, Ohio. And then in the evenings, I actually was a waitress at the Cheesecake Factory, of all places. And so this was truly eye-opening to me about the reality of the state of our health. And this was 10 years ago, in 2007. And I noticed in this small rural town, the rates of obesity from the kids through the parents were pretty astronomical. And I remember one day feeling heartbroken when a little kid walked into the doctor's office with a bag of Doritos, and this poor little boy was overweight himself. And it crushed me. And I know, as we'll go into, obesity is a lot more complex than just nutrition or just exercise. There's a lot to it that we don't know yet and we're working on. But I realized just the state of our environment, the lack of the built environment, all of these factors that are playing into the health of our nation, that I was like, man, I want to do something to help make a difference, to help change this. I remember at the time I would take my dad's script pads and write like, take a walk, eat an apple, meditate, play with the kids, go outside and enjoy it. I know it's not that easy. And so my dad would always joke to me, Kel, when you find the magic pill for behavior change, let's go into business. So kind of at the same time, I would go in the evenings and work at the Cheesecake Factory. And again, I'd look at these like portions, and it was just like endless food surrounding, that place. And I remember even the salads there, I'd be like, oh my gosh, these are covered in dressing or covered in this. And so it was just an eye-opener experience. Like I said, going from a physician's office to a restaurant and all of these environmental factors that came into play, that really kind of made me interested in this topic. And ironically, at the time, I remember driving down to Ohio State for a Kaplan course. I was looking at potentially going to medical school again. And there was a big advertisement on a billboard for bariatric surgery. And that was such a wake-up call to me because our society is at this place where that's being advertised. And it really showed, and again, this was 10 years ago, the extreme change, I think, in our nation's health as it relates to obesity and all these non-communicable diseases within the past 30 years. And so that's kind of what led me into going to school for exercise science, then followed up in public health, because I had such passion for this, and for figuring out how can we as a society look at these health-related issues that are kind of attributed with and associated with obesity and make a change and reverse these trends, not only for us currently, but for our future generations as well. So flash forward, go through graduate school, I develop my thesis, or my culminating experience in my Master's of Public Health program, was actually a social marketing campaign. I actually used the WWE as a platform, but I wanted to kind of create a social media campaign and marketing campaign using the wrestlers there to kind of educate parents and kids on the importance of being active and choosing healthy lifestyle behaviors such as nutrition, sleeping, and exercising, to become stronger and to become healthier. And at the end of the day, my goal was to kind of educate both parents, guardians, kids on these healthy behaviors and how they're important to engage in them, so that they can kind of create strong bodies, strong minds, and hopefully work at preventing obesity and also kind of reversing some of these trends. And so that's kind of like my I guess short abbreviated version of my passion and my history, and in terms of my affinity for this topic. But I even had a discussion this morning with my dad over coffee, and just talking about how complex this issue is, from legislation to the built environment to individual habits, to even, genetics and predispositions. All of that comes into play, I think, with such a complex issue in obesity, and we all can play a part. One of the things right now is kind of getting involved even in legislation or talking to your congressman and asking them to support, efforts that are made by the CDC and other organizations to do research on obesity, or to provide resources for those that have issues with obesity-related illnesses that can provide support for those. One thing my father and I discussed this morning is the lack of participation of insurance companies in covering some of these treatments. And while I personally don't believe, medicine is always the answer, I do think it has its place. And I think that, these different areas of the healthcare field play a role, whether that's insurance companies, whether that's lobbyists, whether that's you and me, as a support system for people that are, going through the issues related to obesity, or helping even educate those around us on lifestyle factors that can help us prevent as well as reverse obesity. Something as small, as like a 5 to 10% body weight loss can help improve health dramatically. Even such thing as just engaging in more standing, more walking, some exercise can help overall health so much. And I think we underestimate that those little things we do add up over time. So from an individual standpoint, whether you're struggling with overweight or being obese yourself, there's little things that you can do throughout the day, and they may not seem like they add up, but they really do. Such as making an effort to walk a little bit more, or, kind of stepping back and looking at your nutrition, and little things like, looking at, are we drinking our calories versus eating our calories? That's one thing that I always try to look at, and if we can kind of focus on eating our calories versus drinking our calories, that can make a huge change. Also looking at where our food sources are coming from and being mindful when we eat. Something so simple as being present in the moment when we eat. And unfortunately, I think we lose that a lot in our society these days. Everything is so fast-paced and so driven, and most of us are sitting behind computers all day that we forget to stop and literally just be present when we eat, or to go take a walk during the day, to recharge our brains and get our bodies moving. Those are small things, small steps that we can take that add up over time. And I think too, a lot of it starts, even from a more mindfulness, psychological level, and tapping into our inner selves and what motivates us and what makes us feel good. I think it's important just to support all of those around us that might be, going through issues with obesity or obesity-related, diseases. I can only imagine, and I think our society right now is kind of in this weird place. We know it's an issue, but sometimes we don't talk about it, and we want to be culturally, sensitive to it, but at the same time also help those that are going through it. And so whether that's lending an open ear, whether that's, being a source of information, again, working with your community to make it more walkable, make it more sustainable, make it, more physically active and engaging, promoting, I think, a positive work environment, a positive home environment, having healthy food around, making things active, if you're an owner of a business, allowing your, staff to go on walks, to have walking meetings, to engage in physical activity. Not all of these things are only going to help us from a physical standpoint, but they're also going to help us from a productivity standpoint. And I think overall, as a community and as a society, if we can start looking at ways to make our environment more conducive to a healthy lifestyle, our nutrition, our exercise behaviors, physical activity throughout the day, and again, looking at policies, how can we make a difference? I think over time we can reverse this epidemic. I know that we can. I don't think that we can. I know we can. But it's going to take a concerted effort from all of us, literally making healthy choices and helping each other make healthy choices, supporting the research that goes on to help reverse these trends, supporting legislation that's going to help. I think all of this can make our nation, our country, a lot healthier, and even the world to that extent. But it starts right now. It starts with you. It starts with you and your family, you and your community, and making that difference. Next time you're in a work meeting, ask to go for a walk. Next time you're out with your colleagues, take the step to kind of initially make that healthy decision or make that healthy choice. Be kind and patient with those around you that are dealing with obesity, but if they open up, lend an ear and be there for them. Advocate with your own physician. Get all your wellness checks done. I just read a book, I'm almost done, High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. I highly recommend. And he says that we should all take the time for this next year to be our healthiest year yet. So go get all your screenings. Get that colonoscopy, get the mammogram, get the full-on physical, get your eyes checked, go to the dentist, do all those things that we tend to put off, healthy or not, whether we feel like we're the best we've ever been or maybe we are a little behind. But make an effort now, because if we all do our part to help out ourselves and each other, we can reverse this. I know we can. I'm confident in it. So thanks for hearing me out. I know, again, this was a little bit more public health in nature, not so much individual workout, nutrition advice. We'll get back to that. But because it is Obesity Week and National Obesity Care Week, I definitely wanted to touch base on this as it's something I'm really passionate about. So I love you all. Check the link with the description so that you can go check out the Take 5 pledge for Obesity Care Week. And let's all do our part to kind of help reverse the trend and make our country the healthiest it's ever been, and for future generations to come. Talk to you soon. Take care. Have a great week. Bye.